Attention Northwest Arkansas businesses and talent seekers. Introducing OnboardNWA.com, your hyperlocal job board crafted for our unique community. Struggling to find the perfect match for your job openings? Onboard NWA simplifies the hiring process, connecting you with the region's top talent through tailored talent matching solutions. Whether you're an employer seeking expertise or a professional looking for your next opportunity, Onboard NWA is here for you. Discover more at onboardnwa.com. And let's build the future of Northwest Arkansas together.
It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Without further ado, here's our fearless host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I'm excited to be with you today. This is the end of the year, the end of 2021. And I don't know about you. I am ready to exhale over this holiday season. I'm ready to just take a break and reset my mind for 2022. But before I do that, I figured we would just have a time and a moment of reflection. So that's what this podcast episode is. And today I have assembled a host of like key individuals in my life that I have had an opportunity to either do a podcast with or connect with in 2021 in a major way. And so I asked them to come join me on the podcast today. You guys know I love to have guests, but today, without further ado, I want to welcome Jeremy Tran and Jerra Nalley to the podcast. For those of you that don't know, Jeremy's from the I Am Gastronome, and we had him on the podcast, and you can check out our episodes for Jeremy's episode on the podcast. And then, of course, a lot of you know Jerra because Jerra is a gal about town. And she's been here, done that in a lot of different ways. And I connected with her in a former life, in a former job. And I said, man, I want to have you on the podcast. And Jerra joined me for co-hosting several episodes of the 5 New Things episodes that we did in 2021, which was something new that we did on the podcast. So Jerra, Jeremy, thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast today. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Good. So listen, I want to, this is more of a, as I told you before, this is more of an unscripted episode where we're not going to, hash out a whole bunch of stuff. But I really would love to just get your thoughts about some of the things that you're, really excited about that happened in 2021. So Jerra, ladies first, I'd love to have you share some of your thoughts.
Yeah, I think you're right. 2021 has been an interesting year with, kind of things coming back in some capacity and then not in other capacities. And I think what's been exciting for me is just seeing how people pivoted all of their businesses, whether it be, the entertainment industry with Theater Squared or the Momentary or Walton Arts Center, bringing performances back in some way, or with the restaurants like pop-up, food trucks and things like that, and new restaurants and new concepts that we've never seen before. So I think that's been a lot of what I have loved seeing this year. It's just been, I think, a year of transformation and just pivoting businesses. And I think there's also been this kind of transition of people looking inward into their community and figuring out, how can I support local? How can I buy local? How can I shop local even more than they did before, which I really love to see, because that kind of continues spinning that wheel of generating more businesses in our community. So I think that's what I've really loved seeing. And of course, our area is still exploding in growth. Every single city, from Centerton to Fayetteville to, everything in between. I mean, I I talked to someone this weekend who, used to work in recruiting with me in Walmart a million years ago, it seems. And it's now, he and his family opening up a brand new, huge food truck park in Centerton in 2022. So it's like, people pivoting to what their passions are. I think it's just really cool to see that over 2021, especially.
Yeah, no, it really is. And I mean, you bring up a good point about all the different ways that a lot of local organizations pivoted during this pandemic. And I know that Holidays is happening there in downtown Dixon over there by the Walton Arts Center. That's a unique event. I talked to Hannah Withers about a few weeks ago, and she had shared how much they made over the past, the last time they did it and what they hope to make this year. And most of that money is going back into the community, which is really nice. I mean, and so it's interesting how we can, as human beings, we are able to adapt no matter what the situation is and no matter what the environment is. And so just like your friend with the food truck, island, if you will, in Centerton, and just like, I mean, places where when I moved here 5 years ago, there was no food. There was no food truck in Centerton.
No.
Period. So
I live in Cave Springs now, and even 2-3 years ago, driving to the airport, I was like, who would live in Cave Springs? Now everybody lives in Cave Springs.
Everybody lives in Cave Springs. Yeah.
Just the transformation is just crazy in this area.
Yeah.
And Holidays is a good point. I mean, Holidays started as a small little, use this space kind of bar. And now they have 2 locations. It's the old dry cleaner, which I think is hilarious and awesome. And then it's like the Walton Arts Center. And now you can bring kids to the nice one. Like, I just think that's so cool that, Hannah and the team have done that. And most all of that decor is like donated from people locally.
Right.
I think it's so fun. And the vintage, 30-year-old decorations on the wall. It's just hilarious.
It is. Yeah. And, just as a point of reference, they actually have to have a huge storage just to keep all that stuff every year. And this is something they want to continue to do because it's now taken on a new meaning, I think. And so
it's like a tradition now.
It is. Yeah. It's definitely a tradition. So, so Jeremy, what about you, man? I know you've been here, there, and everywhere. You're all over the place, but and we introduced you on the podcast and talked about your business, which I think is interesting because restaurants and food trucks need help when it comes to marketing, when it comes to extending their brand and letting the world know who they are and why they're special and why people should come and eat there. But I'd love for you just to kind of share some of your thoughts about this year.
Yeah, I mean, this year, just like, Jerra was saying, it was definitely a year of, kind of looking within yourself and just pivoting. And I think what has got me really interested for, 2022 is seeing those people who, you hear in the news, the Great Resignation and all that stuff. And I don't think that's really people are resigning. It's more, they don't want to work, but it's more of that people have options now and that, COVID really, I guess, made them, want to chase their passion. I think that's what a lot of people are doing. And so I love seeing all these up and coming, local bakers or just, people who are just, trying to start out, with something. And that's what I'm really excited for. And just like, we were at that Curate course, pitching competition, that was really cool to see, just the community rally around, these up and coming businesses and then us kind of getting an insight as to why they started. And it seemed like, COVID was definitely just that big impact. So just kind of seeing that. And then, as well, being able to now showcase a lot of behind the food of who's making that food and really just humanizing, what goes behind that, all that work. It's definitely 2022 is going to be an interesting year for a lot of people. It's really, really exciting moment for sure.
Yeah, no, it really is. And I'm glad you mentioned that Curate event that we did. That was my first time doing a pitch competition for food entrepreneurs. But I think that speaks volumes to what Northwest Arkansas has attracted in terms of ideation around entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship's not just the brick and mortars. I'm selling a bunch of widgets. It could be somebody that's got an outstanding cookie company. It could be somebody that makes amazing teas. The actual winner of the Curate competition was a tea maker, and he imports all of his teas from Africa, which has some of the greatest teas in the world. And so I think it is a compliment to this area, to anyone that is here, to understand and know that we think really deeply about entrepreneurship, and that this is a very fertile area to grow an idea, to grow a business, and that anything can happen.
Yeah.
And,
and a lot of these people right now are actually doing this full time. The full time tea makers, the full time, Instagram bakers and all that stuff. And that's like, I mean, that's just speaks some volume. Just to see them chase their passion, and then like they're doing it full time now. So it's like it should be like a call to like, yo, if you like what you do or you enjoy it, like go out and chase it and put in the work. So
yeah. I mean, it's multiple businesses. Like some of them, I mean, you think about Onyx. Like Onyx started here, and Andre and John grew up in Springdale and in Johnson, and now they have, 4 locations now. But then their biggest side of the business is wholesale. So their coffee is around the world, in Europe, in Asia, in Seattle. They've won the national barista, brewer, and roaster competitions like every year and gone to international. And it's just like they started here. They went to high school here. They grew up here and have just established their businesses, their families, and and then they give back so much to the community. Like, I mean, the Well Met Cafe actually, and Hail Fellow Well Met in Johnson, is actually where Andrea grew up, like where her family home was in Johnson. So it's like full circle, people bring it back and just set up their families here. And it's just like, it's so cool to see that just starting in Northwest Arkansas, and then growing to what it is now.
And I've even noticed too, like there's people who are starting to, jump into Northwest Arkansas, even other food, creators or food within the food industry who are coming into Northwest Arkansas. They're like, oh, we're not the locals, we're not the locals anymore. So they're trying to learn from us. And so I think that's really cool too, to see all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I'm excited about that. And I tell people all the time when I hear folks that are like, I want to start something. I'm like, all right, well, try to pare down your debt, try to live below your means for a while. And it's okay. I mean, you can do that. And I think there's nothing like, just starting from the ground up and building something that's special. Mm-hmm. And there's so many restaurants, there's so many businesses locally that have been able to do that. And I think that Easy Bins comes to mind. I mean, there's just so many.
I got one this morning.
Oh, you do?
Literally, I was out of eggs and milk last night, put in an order at 9 p.m. and it was on my doorstep at 6 a.m. this morning. Like,
listen,
amazing.
Yeah, Easy Bins is great, and for the uninitiated, we did an episode with the folks from Easy Bins, and they're a competitor to Instacart, and I think that they do a great job here locally, and they're expanding, and they've just filled a need, right? I mean, some people do have a need you can't get to the store. I need something by tomorrow morning, just like you said you needed, Jerra, and you were able to get it, and so there. And listen, that's not the only idea that needs to be met, right? I mean, there are other ideas and there are other needs that need to be met that haven't been. So there's still hope, right? I mean, a lot of times people say, "Oh, well, that food idea is taken, or this is taken." I'm like, no. There's nothing new under the sun, and there's plenty of opportunity and plenty of room. If you can create a good product, if you can create a good menu, people are going to come. Is that right?
Oh yeah. And we were talking about it, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about, the need for dim sum and great dumpling place. And then literally the next week, they announced that cheese is like coming to Little Rock and coming here. And we all texted each other like, oh my God, it came to fruition.
Answered prayer for food. So that's exciting. That is exciting. So listen, I mean, in terms of, again, we've had to deal with COVID and getting together. What are you seeing? What are you excited about coming up in terms of us collectively being able to get together again? I know several events have happened. I've looked on Instagram and Facebook, and a lot of people have had holiday parties and things of that nature, and doing it responsibly, of course. And I think we're still going to have to do that for some time to come. But what have you witnessed this year that has given you hope that we will be able to resume getting back together in group settings where we can have a lot of fun? And when I say group settings, I think of like programs like Bite NWA, which was a lot of fun pre-pandemic, right? And then it just became something else. But I mean, what are you guys thinking about as far as that's concerned?
I I mean, I think a lot of like outdoor spaces, kind of reimagining outdoor spaces, even in the winter with, heaters has been one thing that I've really liked seeing in these like parklets that have popped up in the outdoor dining entertainment district, where it's like you can go to different, areas. And then I really like what all of the performance venues have been doing, like Theater Squared and Momentary. And, in particular that I've been to, they, require a negative vax or a negative COVID test or vax card. You wear masks the entire time. So it's like, even though you're in there with a decent amount of people, they're still spacing people out. You're still wearing masks. Like, I felt good going to those performances again. And it was just nice to feel that level of normal again, that like, and Theater Squared in particular, those performances are just so different. And so, I mean, just off the wall, hilarious, or just, out there. It's like, it's not what you would typically expect from a performance. And I went with, a friend of mine, and it was just so nice to be able to experience that again. And I think people are like just kind of pivoting to that. And I know, Fresh Grass Music Festival is coming back for next year, AMP concerts, and they're just doing everything they can to make sure that, people are safe when they're doing it. And it just makes you feel better to go to the performances and to support those artists, because artists have been hit, just as much and have been pivoting. And I think about like Olivia Trimble, who does, all of the big murals and stuff, AKA Sleet City or Sleet City Woman on Instagram. And she opened up a new art supply store. So it's on College. It opened like 2 to 3 weeks ago. And I mean, she's still doing murals and a ton of art, but it's like you can actually buy her art there, and then also art supplies to make it yourself. We didn't have an art supply store that I knew about before. And I just think that's really cool that it's like she can still, do her art, but then have another business that supports that. And then the Momentary in Crystal Bridges, I think, did a pop-up holiday shop too, that you could shop, downtown Bentonville. And just, being able to pivot and take pieces of those artworks and things like that, I think is so cool that we've seen, especially for, performances and things like that this year.
Yeah.
To piggyback off that, I think it's really cool now starting to see like, the performance part, right? Like JJ's Live, for example, right? We're starting to finally get more shows. Like, we had Snoop Dogg recently who, was at, local Cane's, handing out chicken and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
The traffic backup that day, I was like, what is happening? What if Cane's is not that good? I was so
right. Yeah. And now what? We got Ludacris coming, we got Nalley. So it's like outside of like the Walmart AMP, it's like now we're getting, some different other venues involved. And I think that's really cool to see that that's starting to come back. So
yeah, no, and I'm excited. I am excited about that. And I think that, we'll get through it. I know they were just an announcement recently, like maybe even today, that there's an expansion in available testing. And I think that's going to make a big difference too.
Yeah,
that if I can do like a quick test, even in my home, and know that, okay, I'm good to go, let me go out and do that. I think if we all just take measures to do that, it will make a huge difference. So it really will for everybody involved. So listen, I want to, before we wrap up, I want to get your thoughts on what you're excited about for the future here in Northwest Arkansas. And, when I think about the future of this area, as you mentioned earlier, Jerra, so many people are still coming here, even during the pandemic. I've had a chance to meet with some really cool people. And, I've told, I don't know if I've told this story, but I've told this story personally to some people, but we actually had a little bit of serendipity happen on the podcast, and I'll share it with you guys. And then I want to get your thoughts about just what's next for Northwest Arkansas. But I had a guest on the podcast. His name is Andrew Gibbs Dabney. He runs a clothing company called Lives In. And his pants are super comfortable. You guys have heard me talk about his pants before.
Yeah. I've been in their studio, like trying women's pants, and I was like,
right.
Okay, like,
listen, I just ordered another pair so I can have more than one pair, so people aren't looking at me like, hey, didn't you just wear those yesterday? But
I mean, it can go through multiple washes, though.
Oh my gosh, and they're super comfortable. But anyway, long story short, Andrew was a guest on the podcast, and just a little serendipity. I had a couple that reached out to me, Meredith and Nick Caston, really great couple. I call them the like salt of the earth people, but they had reached out because they told me, hey, before they even moved here, they were like, your podcast was one of the main reasons why we're coming here. You really sold us on Northwest Arkansas. And that really warmed my heart. And I've actually gotten a lot of emails and letters and stuff like that from people. And I've had coffee with these folks. And my wife and I have had dinner with these guys. But the funny thing is, Andrew used to be my neighbor. I live over by Gully Park on the east side of Fayetteville, and he sold his house over there by Gully Park. And the people that he sold it to were Meredith and Nick Caston. So the people that I convinced to move here to Northwest Arkansas, or at least I was part of convincing them to move here, they ended up buying the house of somebody that was a guest on the podcast, which I thought was kind of cool. And he loved that story. But, it just shows how we don't have 6 degrees of separation here in Northwest Arkansas. It might be 1 or 2, right? I mean, we don't have to bring Kevin Bacon into the equation. It's just like there's only 1 or 2 connection points from you to just about anybody else in this area. It could be Doug Parker. It could be anybody. No, I'm sorry. Doug. What's the CEO of Walmart? Is it Doug McMillan? Yeah, I always mess up his name. But anyway, it could be anybody. I know somebody that knows him. So It's just like, it doesn't matter. And that's, I think, when people that are thinking about coming here, to understand Northwest Arkansas in a nutshell is simply that it's not a closed community. It is a close community. Mm-hmm. And there's a difference, right? A closed community is where we don't really, we keep outsiders at arm's length. We don't really let, you have to put your time in before we give you a local card, right? Yeah. You get your local card the minute that you get to Northwest Arkansas. So
then you got to prove yourself, right? For them to communicate.
Of course.
And it's so welcoming, and it's so and so supportive. Like, it's funny with Andrew, like you mentioned, Andrew and I met years ago through startup events and, things like that, and kind of like always supported each other. And, my day job is working at the university for the Walton College, and we have our new outdoor rec programs. And so, I was thinking about, as we're thinking about future news releases, we need to make sure that the outdoor publications are getting those. I don't have those outdoor publications on our press list. So I reached out to Andrew and said, Andrew, do you by chance know, you work with a lot of great national outdoor press? And he sent me this monster list with contacts and just all of that. And, he shared like our internships, and, I've tried on the pants to like, what is a woman's perspective on these pants and what does it need here? So it's like, everybody is just connected in some way, or will get you connected in some way in this area.
That's what Randy did for me just the other week, and I just got done filming at the Co-op just the other day. I got to stop by and meet the director of communications there, and just kind of showcase like the local like scenery. It's awesome just the people here.
Yeah. No, that's it. It is a sharing economy. And so that's something that is special about Northwest Arkansas. I think people that live here, I think we realize it or get it. But if you live here, that's what it's all about. And so it's all about relationships, and there are a ton of them here, and you just never know who knows somebody that you need to connect with. So don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to say, hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so for a cup of coffee or something like that? But that's kind of what it is. So, all right, as we close out, Jerra, please tell me what you're excited about for 2022.
I think for 2022, what I'm most excited about is actually getting back to these like accidental connections that happen. Like when you go, like I was working in the coffee shop, for instance, in Bentonville at Airship, 2 weeks ago, and ran into my old friend, Rob Apple, who's working on a ton of different hospitality things here and like new cool concepts and just catching up. And then I see Bianca Montoya, who's at, was Bike in WA and now something Ethic, like the new, biking initiative. And she said, I need to come talk to you about biking stuff at the Walton College and all this. And then I ran into someone outside, and it's like, you kind of miss those accidental connections. So I think, I'm really excited to get back to those, especially in 2022. And then I would say too, one thing that is really growing in this area is the healthcare industry too. That's, kind of growing and expanding, but not just traditional healthcare. I think the stuff with Whole Health Institute is really exciting. What they're bringing, holistic and functional medicine to Northwest Arkansas, in addition to the big, Mercy and the new Blue Cross Blue Shield office in Arkansas Children's and Washington Regional, like just this healthcare scene. It's also going to bring in more people. And I even read, on Axios this morning, they're going to open up more residencies in Northwest Arkansas to bring in more people. And then they come with trailing spouses and they come with families. So it brings kind of a different scene to Northwest Arkansas that we have not had before, because, we've been traditional CPG, retail, transportation. That's not going to change. But now we can bring in those people that, let's say we bring in a resident from, I don't know, Oklahoma or something that comes to be a resident here. Well, their trailing spouse may have a small business or a food truck idea that then they bring into Northwest Arkansas that never would have, come here. I mean, I know someone personally who was a resident here at Washington Regional like 2 years ago, and they're back in Dallas. I have a feeling they'll be back here eventually. But, the wife, she has this business making the most beautiful prints and artwork and coffee mugs and like all of these different things. And, she's running that the same way in Northwest Arkansas or wherever she is. So I think bringing those different industries, and kind of the same thing with outdoor rec, those industries are coming here as well, and new technology. I think just the growth in different industries is going to bring even more different people here, which I'm really excited about for next year and beyond.
Yeah, that's cool. How about you, Jeremy?
I'm really excited just for us to kind of slowly getting back to the norm, right? I think we're slowly starting to see a lot more events, going on. We're seeing a lot more just the community getting involved and doing things with each other. Like, for example, here in January, I'll be working with like 4 different restaurants here to collaborate with the NWA Food Bank. And I think just like seeing all those type of events coming together. And then, I know we know some things, within the circle that's going to be happening, next year with different events. So I think just seeing that, and then finally, like you said, seeing those connections and seeing the community get together again. I think that's what I'm really excited about for 2022. And then obviously we know that as it goes on, the events are just going to get bigger and bigger, and just community is just going to grow stronger.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And you're right. I mean, both of you guys are spot on with how the growth is going to happen in 2022. And, people are going to find more ways to get together. There are going to be more opportunities for people to kind of share what they're working on. And I think a lot of people are going to come out of this what I call the COVID bubble, with a lot of new ideas, with a lot of new opportunities that they're going to be presented with. And so this is it's actually going to be a really exciting time. I'm excited for Canoe coming to Northwest Arkansas, the electric vehicle company. That's going to provide like 1,200 jobs or something ridiculous like that. They're going to have a campus in Bentonville. They're going to have a research and development location in Fayetteville. I mean, that you can't get, I don't know how you cannot get excited when you hear that kind of news. So, and everybody at Canoe, even the people that live here that work with them, or anybody that comes here to work for Canoe, is going to need to eat. They're going to need to buy clothes. They're going to need to do all this stuff. They're going to need to ride bikes. So it's going to create an interesting time. And I am excited too, as you mentioned, you gave a shout out to Ethic, and that's the new name for Bike NWA and what Bianca Montoya and the rest of the team are doing. But it's just exciting. I mean, we're an outdoor community. It's a beautiful area. We're at the foot of the Ozarks. It just doesn't get better than this. So I'm really excited and very bullish for what's going to happen here in Northwest Arkansas and this whole region over the next year plus. So, and yes, you did tease that we are going to be doing something together, the 3 of us. So I'm excited about that, and we'll put more information out soon. And so
it's a little teaser.
Just a little teaser. There's going to be some fun things happening in the near future, and it's a collaboration, right? And I think that's important, because a lot of times I think we feel like, we've got to do something by ourselves, but in reality, we're always stronger when we're together. And so I'm really excited about that. And so I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart for taking time out of your busy holiday schedule to come join me for this special reflection episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. It's the first time I've ever done one like this. And maybe we'll have to just make it a yearly thing, but I appreciate you guys so much. And so I wish you nothing but happiness and good times. And gingerbread cookies and hot cocoa with you and your families over the holiday season. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah,
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast, a little different than normal, but to learn more about us or to read or download the show notes from today's episode, which I took notes from all the conversation that these guys shared. So I'll share all the links in the show notes. You can listen to this podcast and sign up for our free newsletter to keep up with us and all things NWA. Please sign up today, and please consider following the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Our podcast comes out every Monday, rain or shine. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and we'll see you back here. And dare I say, I'll see you back here next year on another episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes and more information on becoming a guest or sponsor, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.